Hello, Looney listeners. You're back for another episode of Into the Night, a Moon Knight podcast. The one and only Moon Knight podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Connor.
And I'm your other host, Ray, and we have got a jam-packed episode this evening. We have tons of news to get through, ranging from toys to comics. We also are doing our Over the Moon reviews. The first one is Lemire's issue 11, Death and Rebirth Part 2 of 5, as well as a classic run of The Defenders Volume 1, issue 47, Night Moves. So, grab your issues, sit back, relax, and get your Khonshu on.
So yes, welcome back, Looney listeners. As you just heard, this has been an absolutely wonderfully jam-packed week of Moon Knight goodness. Apologise for this one being out late. That one's on me.
No worries.
Kind of a big week, so I mean, if we get back on schedule, you'll actually kind of have 2 episodes this week, and then we'll be back on schedule for hopefully back every Saturday, Sunday. No?
Yep.
Be good.
But we definitely have a lot of news to cover here, Connor. What an exciting week to kind of come back after our jam-packed week with Rebecca last episode.
Yeah, it was great. We went panel by panel, but we have no time for panel by panels this week because they're just hitting us.
Yep.
One after the other, just Moon Knight news coming at us.
Yeah, exactly. Well, let's just go kick it off. First bit of news, Connor.
Yeah. The big one.
The big one. Let's have a look. Well, the first one we've got is we got our first look at more of Moon Knight 188. So this came out, I guess, shortly after our episode 10 dropped. So it wasn't long before we got this, and it actually has, well, two pages that we've seen before, but it's got some more art from Jason Burrows and another page from, I can only imagine, issue 188, and a lot of speculation there, Connor.
Oh, yeah, no, it's I mean, I always refer back to this, but we've always heard how crazy and whacked out this first issue is going to be, and I mean, looking at these first apparent 3 pages, or at least our preview, who knows if it's our first 3 pages, I couldn't even tell you our sense of story here. It is just 3 pages. So our first one's the one we got before with the woman brushing her teeth, getting into bed with the shot of all the Moon Knight goodness on the wall. And then the second page after that is a very interesting white sort of empty room except for unfilled frames for photos and maybe mirrors, but yeah, and a red-headed woman, possibly. We'll get to that speculation a bit. Actually, we don't know who that is. No. In a room, in a weird white costume, all of a sudden being attacked by some wonderful mummies. Only for the final panel to have a shot of a particular iconic flowing white cape for our next page to be our old Avenger in white fighting these mummies.
Yeah, it's my gosh, if we take a step back, that page that you just described, Connor, so mysterious. Like, are they frames? Are they mirrors? I took them as mirrors, but you never can tell. This red-headed woman, is she or is she not the same red-headed woman from the previous page that we saw? Then we have very Egyptian-looking mummies, but if you zoom right in, you can see they're not only humanoid. I see what looks like Ammut's, a mummy of Ammut. So there's a crocodile head / mummy.
Oh yeah.
And even in the frame before that, it doesn't look like, not totally a humanoid skull there as well. So all sorts of mummies are coming out of this room. Is it a dream as well? We don't know. It looks very surreal. That last panel, as you said, Connor, with the flowing cape, seems to go down an endless corridor. So what the hell could be happening here? I mean, any first thoughts here, Connor?
I mean, I think we'll go to probably the simplest page to describe Moon Knight fighting the mummies, which is our first sort of, well, full showcase outside that little teaser we got before of Jason Burrows just tackling our hero on this incredibly visceral, detailed ripping of these mummies. You know, every sort of fiber, every bit of a gory inside being ripped apart, and sort of our biggest sort of full-on frontal shot of the suit as well.
Yeah, and there has been a lot of talk as well about this being a very standalone, different costume again. So it seems like every volume, Moon Knight has a different version of his costume. So here, the white mask, basically predominantly all white, and no black whatsoever, no armor whatsoever. And the art is very much, I can imagine, a Jason Burrows work of art, right? A lot of gore, a lot of detail from his, what was it, Crossed, that he came from, his comic series. But he is very, very graphic, not too disturbing, because, you know, after all, they're just mummies. But you see Moon Knight ripping a head off, which is quite brutal, and tearing another mummy in half. So a really good insight into more of the artwork of Jason Burrows. The art in that other page with the mysterious red-headed woman in that bare room seems less detailed than the others, although the mummies are quite detailed. So
yeah, I think that's
that's
sort of a very interesting stylistic choice, possibly. This entirely white room.
Yeah. It does have the bareness to it, and he has he has pared back on the detail, but he does keep that detail with the mummies, which we do see. So very cool preview pages here for Moon Knight, and it just got us that one step closer towards the release date of November the 8th. So yeah, a lot happening there.
Yeah, and I think just going back to that room, it's such an interesting choice, because it's a very surreal room. You know, it's a room with either empty frames or all mirrors, with, you know, no sign of even what she's investigating having any pictures of it. And it's sort of like, it gives off this impression that it's either otherworldly or just not real at all. You know, this is this is sort of the craziest, most insane hero of them all. So that page just doesn't even tell you whether that's based in reality.
Yeah, what do you reckon there? Is there any symbolism to those frames or the mirrors, you think, Connor, to Moon Knight? If that is indeed Dr. Emmett, maybe. Look, you know, I'm only assuming. What? I don't know. What could that mean? Would that be reflecting upon oneself, or is she collecting pictures of something? It's pretty hard to tell.
I think, like, my sort of first impression from reading this is we have our first page of the woman getting into bed, and obviously she's whoever she is, whether she's a mud, or from the second page, some people are possibly thinking Scarlet Fasanera, the stained glass Scarlet. Yeah. Regardless, she seems very intent on investigating Moon Knight, and I think just sort of as she's lying down, this definitely seems a dream for her before, and that, you know, the fact she's investigating Mark, those sort of empty portraits may show that she's not entirely as close to finding Mark as the sort of last page with the suit and photos of Mark may suggest. You know, kind of makes sense if this was her dream, that Moon Knight would suddenly show up, and not only that, but she's also in a very Moon Knight-esque suit. You know, it's white.
That's a good way of putting it. I actually didn't think of reading them one after the other together, but I can see definitely, like, that last panel of the first page shows her in bed, deep in thought, and yeah, this definitely could be a dreamscape of her, because she's dressed in a weird kind of attire already, right? And it's very it's not uncommon, in dreams, I guess, to have skewed perspectives and endless corridors and stuff like that. And obviously the mummy's coming out. She's also got looks like some pictures or some documents in front of her that she's looking at. I don't know whether or not the artwork is not finished, or they're going to put something in post-print on those pages, because at the moment they're just blank. I wonder if she is looking at documents about Moon Knight, if she is indeed still obsessed with him, and then she gets overwhelmed by by these mummies who I don't know. Yeah, I don't know whether it kind of derives from Moon Knight, like Khonshu, or from her own kind of fears. There's just a lot to think about with these teaser pages.
Yeah, and I think at least one thing is for sure off these pages, that Jason Burrows can draw an action scene. Like, I'm really excited for these, like, to say the least, about, all the stuff we're excited for this issue. But no, I think these panels are going to be so in depth when it comes to every sort of fist Moon Knight throws, and it's just going to be such a visceral fighting delight to view when we finally get it on November 8th.
Yeah, absolutely. Just that one splash page of him fighting the mummies, that's sold it for me. I'm looking forward to more gore and more action scenes with Moon Knight, which is good, and which is something that, again, there've been comments before with Lemire's run, which was kind of more cerebral, I guess, and it was more delving into the mental aspects of it. It's kind of fun to see him, get back into it, and a bit more of the Vengeance of the Moon Knight or Houston's run, where he actually, talks with his fists, so to speak. So this will be fun. And I think someone else from the Facebook group also mentioned it's great to see that it's almost like a return to the supernatural as well. Like with him,
definitely,
battling the mummies. So hopefully we're getting there. Hopefully, I don't know how we'll fit it in. Maybe we'll get a werewolf down the track. But it's looking good for those who like Moon Knight as an action hero.
Yeah, I think that sort of really covers it. And just sort of, we've got even a bit more to cover before we get over our excitement for this episode. But any sort of final thoughts on these few pages of preview?
Just maybe I'll raise that question again, which I raised to you the first time we saw that one preview page. I wonder then again, Connor, if that page with her in that dream sequence, again, is that going to be totally textless as well, or?
I was just thinking that now, actually, yeah.
Because I wonder if they put the lettering and all that, afterwards. Because I've read some articles where artists. Because look, I've never drawn a comic book in the comic book industry before. Dabbled with it when I was younger, but in the profession, I guess I'm assuming the words and the text balloons come in at the end, right? And there's a sort of collaboration between the letterer and the artist, with the letterer saying, "Look, I'm assuming we're going to have it over here, so don't spend weeks on this corner of the panel because it's going to be, so there's a bit of coordination there." I wonder if this is the case, and what we're seeing is like a 90% done page, and there's still text to come. Because I agree with you, the picture before with her in her bedroom, that totally works as a silent page, but now seeing two pages which are apparently silent, I just wonder again whether at least that Dreamscape one has some sort of text to it, or has some sort of treatment towards the end. I mean, how they...
or at least...
Yeah. I was about to say, like, this is a bit of a stretch, but how they Photoshop other images of past artwork or whatever. Maybe they do that with these picture frames, or so maybe we haven't seen the final version of this page yet.
Yeah, I suppose, I do agree on just how interesting that is, because that almost, like, I'll happily take these 3 pages as it is, because it really does give off a crazy dreamlike vibe of being a very sort of outside looker into someone's crazy dreams. But also as well, you got to wonder, even if there's no actual text, whether there's sound effects, or you're right about the photos, or if that's very deliberate, or
like,
because I did say...
Sorry, sorry, Connor.
Oh, I just remember on Twitter that I think one of the people said they had proofread, like when they were saying, they sent it off. I think one of them even specifically said, like, letter checked or letter proofed.
Yes.
Which would make it seem that, letters are at least there, and maybe they are there and we're just not getting that.
Yeah, I mean, like, again, just looking at that Dreamscape page, she's obviously screaming and shouting when the mummies come.
Yeah.
Now, if that is a silent thing, I mean, okay, that's an effect, but you would think that there would be some, that there'd be some sound effect or something coming out. So, the lettering potentially is still yet to come. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean,
all good. I mean, like all good. Like we I love seeing these. You know, whether it's finished or not. But it just, I think they picked the right pages as well, because they don't give anything away other than, you know, I guess some mummies. They don't give anything away in the story, and they just raise so many more questions. So I mean, I think they're good teaser pages.
Yeah, that was kind of like that. That was like my last final point. That, you know, we have our preview, but I still don't know anything. Like, what is this? Is it a dream? Is it a new reality like we possibly saw with the other Void and Overvoid?
Yeah.
What do we know?
What do we know? We'll just have to wait and see. We're getting there. We've got about half a month to go or so.
Yeah. And actually, solicitation should be out next week. Probably not this week by the time we record next, but the episode after, we may even have our Moon Knight issue 4 to cover solicitations for. Yeah.
Great.
Do we? On that note,
sorry, Connor. Do we know the first arc, how long it's going to be already, or do we know?
No, there's no indication. Okay. Like, I mean, issue 3 could be the finale of the first arc, or whether we're continuing on, because they don't never specifically say. Yeah, right. You know, part 1 of 3.
Okay. Oh, okay. I guess we'll have to wait and see. Sorry, I interrupted you there.
Oh no, it's all good. It was just sort of a carry on from our little preview. Bleeding Cool sort of did a little cover on Jason Burrows. From Cross to Moon Knight, Jason Burrows, Marvel Legacy.
Yeah, there wasn't too much here. If anything, there was just like, basically, if you distill it, there was just a quote from Jason Burrows. Everything else we've kind of heard already. I read this just briefly as well, and so basically what we can take from this is what Jason Burrows says, and he says, Max and I are really striving to put something together that is unique and interesting while drawing from Moon Knight's long history. Says series us Jason Burrows. This next chapter in Moon Knight's life is going to permanently affect this character's path, and we are working hard to live up to the task. So, apart from that, and from the pages again, there's just a bit of a quote from Moon Knight.
And I hope we do get a sort of full interview with Burrows soon, or at least one with both Bemis and Burrows contributing sort of equally.
Yeah.
That'd be really cool.
It'd be very cool, because, like, I mean, the Burrows, Bemis article was very much in depth, which was really informative. Burrows, just a couple of quotes, and he just rounds off this article by saying, Moon Knight has been in a sort of creative renaissance since Warren Ellis and Declan Shalvey have relaunched the character in 2014. All the way through the amazing arc recently completed by Jeff Lemire, Greg Smallwood and company, says Burrows. We hope to continue this by making the next important chapter in Mark Spector's life thought-provoking, intense, a little scary, and a little funny. So he's been, hasn't he been trained well by Marvel? He hasn't given much away. He's pretty much just confirmed what we all thought, which was Warren Ellis and Declan Shalvey's launch was great, and Jeff Lemire, Greg Smallwood, fantastic. So he hasn't given much away, but he's been media trained very well. But it was fun anyway to hear from Jason Burrows.
And I mean, we might even have to wait till the full issue's out to get a wide range of maybe his art to even talk about in a full interview, but in time.
So not much there. Anything else from that article, Connor, that you think of note?
No, not really. I mean, just sort of on this whole preview in general, I think this is getting a lot of positive reaction online. There's a lot of cool people in Marvel, you know, the editors, proofreaders and all that have been really hyping this up, and response on particularly stuff like Twitter has been really positive, and I think I think it's going to be, if it's good, it's going to be a critical darling and a sales darling, so hopefully, we get to see this series run as long as it does without being cancelled.
I'm a bit wary also as well. Look, I'm loving the hype generated around this from, as you say, from Twitter and the editors and stuff. A little bit of me also thinks, okay, Moon Knight is a smaller standalone corner of the Marvel universe. They're obviously going to push this to try to get sales in. I mean, of course, Moon Knight's had great creative artists involved, so that for anyone who reads comics, you've got to kind of tip your hat to the quality of writers and artists that Moon Knight have had, and is kind of well known for. But yeah, there's a little bit of me thinking, okay, they're obviously trying to do a big push here because Moon Knight kind of needs a bit of help, you know what I mean? Like, whereas opposed Captain America or the Avengers or, you know, the X-Men, they've got a pretty big fan base already, so there's no need to really kind of hype him or get people to look at them as much as, say, Moon Knight.
Yeah, well, I mean, all you Looney listeners just got to push it now, shove it onto your friends, your dogs, just everyone. Yeah. Get it out there.
Yeah, I mean,
get them all to buy every variant cover. Yeah. Don't do that.
We'll have it. Well, I'm hoping to do it. But I mean, but having said that, we are part of that machine as well, aren't we, Connor? I mean, we are kind of pushing this forward, and we're just hoping all the Loonies can come with us, and you know, we can kind of get Moonlight out there. And a little more well known. You know, some people will be kind of like, oh, this is our kind of special vice, and some Loonies might not be amenable to having their Moon Knight become kind of mainstream, if you call it. But look, I think he deserves to be. So he's been around for a while, and with this buzz of Netflix and TV shows and great writers that they've had in the past, you can't not want more from Moon Knight.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It looks.
Sorry.
So yeah. Oh yeah. No, I think that sort of covers it. I will make one sort of final more comment that I think, you know, I'll have to wait for the full issue to come out where this run goes. But I'm really loving this suit. It might even become a new favorite.
Yeah. You how shall we say? You've laid the claim early, Connor, there on the Facebook group.
Yeah, no, I'm all in.
Yeah, I mean, I love the costume. I can't see anything wrong with it myself. But yeah, we'll see how it goes.
I think I just really like the boots.
I want his I can't remember what you call them, but you know, his spiky knuckles. You know,
oh yeah, these need to make a big comeback. I love them.
Aren't they the meanest sort of weapon you can have? Like, just one punch from that, I wouldn't want to, you know, envisage what would happen to the person. You know, I'm sure Jason Burrows can draw it pretty well, but to have spiky knuckles, my God, yeah, bring him back, I say. And we have a final article here, Connor.
Yeah, well, the previews don't really stop there. We've got our look at the Daredevil, She-Hulk, and Moon Knight primer pages, but I guess we'll talk about Moon Knight here. So it was lovely news, but so these primer pages are because, you know, Marvel Legacies, you know, new entry for readers, and they've also got this crazy new issue scheme where, you know, this is a #1 for Moon Knight, but it's listed as 188. Yeah. So the primer pages are for every Marvel book that's coming out starting with Legacy, so for like the next couple of months. We'll have, for their first issue, we'll have three pages in the back of the book for a new reader to sort of get the history of the character.
Yeah.
And so our primer... Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry. Go on, Connor.
Oh, I was just going to finish though. Yeah, the primer pages here, you know, they're not sort of here to get any of us sort of back on board with the Moon Knight or reacquaint ourselves with sort of a very quick overview of the history for anyone new to Moon Knight, just picking up this issue. Yeah,
I've been reading all of the primer pages because they're all available on Comixology as well for free. So if you search for just primer pages or Legacy Primer, you'll come up with all the primer pages that they've released so far. Now, as far as I know to this point, the Moon Knight one isn't available on Comixology, but we did come across an article which gave us each of the pages. So yeah, I mean, so we'll post it up on our show notes as well in case you can't find it. But yeah, exactly as you say, Connor, it's just a a really quick introduction to the character. So what I found for the seasoned fan or the seasoned follower of the character, nothing too much is revealed, or shall I say, nothing really is revealed. It's just kind of doing exactly as it says. It kind of primes you into to getting a little introduction to the character, and it's a really hard thing to do in 3 pages or so. So Robbie Thompson, who writes most of them, I think if not all of them, he's done a really good grasp in capturing the voices as well. And I say that, no pun intended for Moon Knight, but I read the Deadpool one, and that was really good. He actually, for me, I thought he caught the voice of Deadpool really well. He did one on Gwenpool as well, and I know very little on Gwenpool, and in 3 pages, I was pretty much sold. It's like, cool. This is a pretty cool premise for someone. And they've got basically everyone. So they've got, such as Legacy. They have the Hulk, X-Men, Avengers, Thor, Captain America, America Chavez, Captain Marvel, Miss Marvel. All the primer pages are for everyone. So, and as far as the Moon Knight one goes, Connor, what did you think of these 3 pages?
They definitely do, capture it well enough, and just sort of giving them a quick sort of cruise over there. Yeah, no, I think I actually do like it more than I sort of looked at it. It sort of captures every face of Moon Knight so far, and that he is sort of there's some interesting references, like a man after redemption, and sort of going through the fact of who he's been throughout his life. I think it sets up it quite nicely, and I like it's very much just focused on Khonshu, knowing how much of a wreck he's been on his entire life and his whole reason for being. And I think someone in the group, sorry, I'm forgetting you right now,
I think it's Tommy. I think that's where you're going.
Yeah, probably. Very cool guy, Tommy. Big fan. But yeah, I think he's making it out as well from what we've heard about. Beam is talking about the Khonshu will make quite a big show up here, and I think that's why he gets a full page dedicated to his bird skull head. Yeah,
that'll be a very interesting take on it, and I hope something is done with the whole character of Khonshu, rather than it being the age old Khonshu devil on the shoulder thing. It would be very interesting if Moon Knight actually has control of this aspect of Khonshu, and in effect gets his powers back, which is what Khonshu would supply. I think that would be a very interesting thing to do. Look, honestly, I think with these 3 pages, that is a very it's a good look into it and a good interpretation. As to whether or not it's still up in the air, but I like the idea though. I think that's really cool. Also, the other pages I saw, it's good to see that you get a little glimpse of all the Moon Knight costumes as well. Well, at least 2 of them, 2 of the older ones. So you have, when he's punching Jack Russell, werewolf, you get the actual classic Moon Knight garb there with his cape attached to his wrists, which was very 1975. Werewolf by Night 32. And then you have him throwing some crescent darts at Bushman, and it looks like that's more of the Vengeance of the Moon Knight body armor, the carbonadium. So little subtle winks to all the costumes that he's had. And at the end, the last page, Peralta does pretty good on the art. I'm a big fan of Peralta. Do you know what other books and stuff he's done?
He's done a lot of sort of fill-in stuff, but he actually did the art on that weird R.L. Stein Man-Thing book, which was a book that I don't know how to feel about, but regardless, the art was really cool, and he's actually a pretty cool supernatural artist that I'd even maybe love to see tackle Moon Knight one day in the future.
Yeah, okay. I like how he's drawn Khonshu at that last page, as opposed to the 3 identities of Moon Knight. Nice difference in style there. But yep, it's it did the job again, Connor. I think these primer pages got us all kind of salivating for Moon Knight to come as soon as they could, as it can. These primer pages, Loonies, check them out. We'll put them in the show notes.
Yeah. A nice shot to that classic Ellis Moon Knight 5 with Mr. Knight beating through the warehouse on the second page.
Oh, on the second page. Oh yes. Sorry. Moon Knight. Oh yes, I see. Yep.
Mr. Knight beating up.
Oh
everyone.
yes, Mr. Knight.
And yeah, actually, letter of Corey Petit back doing this primer, which maybe he'll even be the letterer for our fall series. That we obviously don't know if it's lettered, as you heard before.
Yeah, that would be good as well. He was very consistent over. Has been or is, as we're still covering Lemire's run. He's very consistent with his lettering. So yeah, it's good to have good talented letterer on board. Okay, I'm just having a look at the editor, Darren Shan, but that's obviously just for the primer page. We have a good friend, Jake Thomas, I'm assuming, back on Moon Knight when the series starts.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, actually, sorry, Connor, there is another last news article which you posted up?
No, it was one of the Loonies.
Oh, one of the Loonies. Oh, okay, yep, sure.
Announced for from Hot Toys and for LA Comic Con. What we feared was only exclusive, but we finally have a Moon Knight pop figure.
Yes.
Cute little things that hop around and put on your desk, and he is very adorable. It says Moon Knight, should have specified, but it's actually it's a Mr. Knight doing up his little sleeves. He's got the gloves on.
Yeah.
He's got the crescent head.
Yeah. And you heard it first from here, didn't we? Didn't we give a scoop?
Oh yeah, true. We covered that.
Yeah, we gave a scoop back in one
layout
of the,
before.
Yeah, one of the early episodes. We didn't know whether it was fake or not. To be honest, I thought it was fake. But it looks like it's going ahead. So can't be happy with this, Connor. My gosh, finally got a Moon Knight Funko. I've only got one. Do you have any Funkos?
I have 4. Actually,
soon to be 5, I'm sure.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. So, more specifically, this is a Hot Topic. I say Hot Toys before. I might have Hot Topic. Exclusive. You can order from their site. Available the 26th of the 10th US time, whatever that is. They haven't quite specified, but watch that space.
Yes.
Hot Topic website. Exclusive there. We don't know about getting it out to the rest of the world, but hopefully shipping
somehow.
isn't too bad.
Otherwise, I'm going to be looking at eBay. I've got to get my hands on it somehow. Yeah, so Loonies, pencil that in, 26th of October. It's just around the corner, and hopefully, if you're up for it, you can order your own little Moon Knight Funko Pop in time for the release of the new comic. So, very exciting news there. I'm always happy to give some toy figure news.
Yeah, always good to have more of it.
Yeah, but
and he's also an exclusive for Los Angeles Comic Con. There's specifically a glow in the dark variant exclusive for LA Comic Con. You can pick up from I think a Hot Topic booth there. Yeah. So if you're in LA, you can track that one down. If not, you'll probably be getting scalped online for $100.
Yeah.
So just maybe buy the regular.
Look, Connor and I are from Australia, so I'm gonna throw it out there. By any chance, if there are any Loonies out there in LA listening, hit us up and let's talk because pretty keen to get my hands on a glow in the dark as well. But yeah, look, if you're in LA as well and you're just chilled, just make sure you pick up one. Just make sure you pick up one for yourself. So very exciting news. Happy with that.
Although the only sort of complaint I had is that they did call him Moon Knight instead of Mr. Knight, and that's not me sort of being pedantic, but it does also make you sort of concerned whether we'll get a regular costume anytime soon, because that also have to be called Moon Knight.
I'd hope so. It
doesn't have that yeah. Because I'd love to see like all of them, Ellis, famous, whatever.
I mean, it's made for Funko, like all these different costumes that he's got. Like I'd love to see the Shelby, like the Ellis, the body armor one. That would be awesome, as well as the Vengeance of the Moon Knight body armor. That would be just great.
Yes.
So if they release, you can get at least 4 or 5 different costumes of Moon Knight. I think that'd be great. Let's do it. Let's ring Funko Pop up.
Let's get him up. Gonna beat him up with our spike knuckles. We won't. We love you. Massive company.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Don't crush us. Yeah.
Yeah, that was it was a really big news week. I was loving it. I was so looking forward to coming back on, chatting up about this.
Yeah.
It's crazy news.
Once we get it all happening, once we have them in our hands as well, and more news to bound, we're gonna definitely bring them over to you, Loonies, and hopefully you'll be the first to know. So well, unless we have any final thoughts, Connor, on the news pieces?
No, but I just want to give a shout out to our group, our Into the Night, a Moon Knight fan-based group, which you can find at facebook.com/groups/Into the Night. You can find all the news there. We don't even find it. All these crazy loonies up at different parts of the world while we usually asleep are floating around and posting this news as soon as it happens on Twitter. It is just wonderful.
Very much
a great discussion always happening as well.
Yeah, very much appreciated, Loonies. Please keep on scouring the internet for news and pop them in there, because we're all fans. So it's sharing is caring. The more that we share with each other, the more that we know. So yep, definitely appreciate it.
Yeah. So after that crazy amount of news, I think it's time to crack on with our reviews for this week. Now we're now well deep, second issue of 5 of this crazy romp with the final arc of Lemire's. And for our little bare bones where we introduced it, we've got a bit of a new segment coming in for bare bones, a bit of a change up. A bit new. Yeah, something
a little fun, we thought. So what we'd do, Loonies, is that we thought we'd ask our good friends, on other podcasts and people that we like to chat to actually, be our guest narrators for our bare bones. So we've got a few lined up, and we're very excited for you guys to hear it. So I think without any further ado, and we'll let him introduce himself, this is our first review for Over the Moon.
Welcome to this episode of Into the Night, Bare Bones. I'm John Harrison from Defenders TV podcast, and I'm delighted here to narrate the introduction for this episode of Into the Night, a Moon Knight podcast. So everyone sit back, relax, get your favorite tipple as we delve into the night and see the magical, mystical, wonderful adventures of Moon Knight. Moon Knight Volume 8, Issue 11, Death and Birth, Part 2 of 5. In a glimpse to the past, Mark silently sits in a room looking out through the window. It's Putnam Psychiatric Hospital, and under Dr. Emmett's approval, Mark has been given the all-clear to discharge and return home. Unfortunately, sorrow is not far behind as Mark then tends to his father's funeral and the wake that follows at the Spectre's family home. Grief-stricken and unable to deal with the loss, Mark reaches out to his other personalities for comfort, much to the dismay of his mother. Aware of the awkwardness, Mark heads upstairs to his old bedroom, and as if beckoned by the moon, he silently crawls out of the window and flees into the night. Suddenly, in another place and in another time, Mark Spectre, as Mr. Knight, defends himself against warriors of the Ovoid. Mr. Knight gallantly overcomes one, then another, but eventually is surrounded by the Egyptian-looking warriors and their monstrous giant scarab beetles. Mr. Knight has nowhere to go. Looking into Mark Spector's past once again, a flashback shows Mark as a Marine serving in Iraq. Odd behaviour has caught the attention of his commanding officer, and Mark is also shown at the mercy of Khonshu's apparitions. Past mental issues have been discovered by his platoon, and it is this, coupled with Mark's erratic behaviour in the field, that forces him to be dishonourably discharged and deemed unfit for duty. Back in the Ovoid, Mr. Knight is led to a prison cell, and by sheer coincidence, or is it destiny, he meets Anput, wife of Anubis, who is also a prisoner. Knowing now whom it is that he needs to rescue, Mr. Knight is then unexpectedly ushered away from Anput before he is able to act upon it. He is marched into a sacrificial altar. He is to be a sacrifice and an example of what happens to those who defy the Ovoid. The situation looks dire as the crowd screams for Mark's blood. A final glimpse into the past shows Mark holding his own in an underground fight club. Military training, violent tendencies, and a possible recent discharge from service gives Mark the edge, and he wins his bout, but none of the glory. A mysterious figure approaches Mark, and he proposes a deal which could earn them both a wealth of monetary returns. The man's name is Jean-Paul, or Frenchy to some, and it is Jean-Paul who introduces Mark into the world of mercenaries, soldiers of fortune.
Okay, well, thanks for that, John. John Harrison from Defenders TV podcast. Thank you so much for being our
legend.
Very first guest narrator for Over the Moon, or for the bare bones for our reviews. So, yeah, great. It's what a fantastic issue, Connor.
Just one of the best arcs of Moon Knight. It's just crazy, you know, this whole new look at Mark Spector, who's been our hero for, you know, was it nearly 30 years, over 30 years now?
Yeah.
Just absolutely crazy, this whole new look. Whole new crazy stuff happening with the Overvoid.
Yep. It's
where do you even begin with this?
Oh, it was such a, I keep on saying it, but such a whacked out part one that we did with Rebecca last episode. It really just opened the doors for so much happening. And in this one, we actually get a few more seeds to the I guess exposition of the overall story. Look, the first aspect I would tag would be Unput, and she's revealed in this issue as being the thing that, well, the person that Mark was to look for. Like, it was never revealed from Anubis. As we remember, Anubis was making a deal with Mark in last issue, saying, you know, if you get this thing for me, or if you save this person for me, I can give you back Crawley. So it's revealed in this issue that it's actually Unput, and it's not. I'm not going to say too much more now, Connor. I mean, I think we both know the answer, but since she kind of looks very much like Anubis, we can only assume that she's either a family member or a loved one. Would you say?
Yeah, I'm thinking wife, but I mean, who knows? I don't really know my Egyptian mythology, but
I assumed it's a wife as well. But you know, it's not really. Let me just quickly recap on the comic, but I'm pretty sure she doesn't mention anything.
No,
she doesn't say anything. No, so she's.
But yeah, what a sort of.
Sorry.
No, you go.
No, yeah. Well, actually, there, Mark does assume. He just says, yes, I think your husband sent me to find you. And Unput says, Anubis sent you. So she kind of indirectly, well, there you go. She indirectly reveals that she's the wife. And that's fair enough. But yeah, she's been kept captive, and so she becomes the driver, I guess, for the story in Elsewhere, or the Overvoid, as to what Mark, the purpose for Mark Spector now. He's got his purpose. He's got to get her back to Anubis.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting here that you know, we saw, was it Anubis ruling the other void on his little raft, but here she makes mention that she's merely a slave. She's powerless in whatever crazy dimension this is.
Yeah, it's a strange thing, the Overvoid. Don't know. yeah, it'll be really it'll be really interesting to explore it more. I'm not sure if Bemis's run is the right run for it, because from what we see, maybe, I don't know. I'm just saying it seems to be a bit more how should we say, physical than this, because the Overvoid is very cosmic and out of this world. Look, we're getting rooftops and apartment blocks and stuff. So it seems I don't want to say a lot more grounded, because you still got mummies and stuff, but it just doesn't seem to be part of this cosmic of Overvoid. But this Overvoid would be really good to see, to explore. I think there's so many questions, holes that Lemire leaves about the Overvoid. Because she's a all intents a goddess, but she's powerless in this place. So.
And speaking of sort of the... Oh, do you have a little bit to finish there, sorry?
No. That was just the first... Yeah.
Yeah, I was just sort of mentioning what a crazy journey to get here, This issue begins with insect jousting and jumping from dragonfly to dragonfly as he's fighting off before losing the battle of the bugs and being captured.
Yeah, did you have that same thought as I did, Connor, when you were reading this? I saw there's a picture here. I'm looking at Mr. Knight on the back of a dragonfly jousting with another Egyptian guy or Overvoid guy, and I'm thinking, what the hell is Mr. Knight doing? Like he jumps, he takes over a dragonfly. This is just so out of the world stuff, but he seems to take it with such with such gusto. He jumps and he takes over the dragonfly, and then he goes into a jousting match, an aerial jousting match with the dragonfly against this other guy, and then he falls, and it's just I was just baffled by this, but it's very good. I love the scarab beetles as well. So a very heavy Egyptian element, and I'm assuming then it's similar to Thor in the way that, I'm assuming this Overvoid is a precursor to what the Egyptians worshipped and then based their culture around. Would you say that's fair, Connor?
Yeah, definitely. It's almost like an alien race that are sort of Egypt sort of aped with its own culture when these Overvoid peeps decided to become their gods.
Because you tend to think, how come these guys look so Egyptian? But I guess you have to spin it around and go, well, no, maybe the Egyptians have taken from these guys. So, that was that was a bit whacked out, wasn't it, Connor? How about I don't know if this touches on any of your aspects, but how about the other portions of this issue, not in Elsewhere or the Overvoid? What did you think of these little snippets of Mark's life? The first one of him being released from the psychiatric hospital, and then going to his father's funeral. I mean, it's quite heavy stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, these are what my two sort of aspects base around. So I think I'll jump into the sort of the storytelling before we get onto the artistic side of it. The fact that this is Mark's fight in the Othervoid and Overvoid, but in real life it really makes it out that Khonshu is just this villain grooming Mark throughout his life. Calling to him as a father figure when he's at his weakest and making him do crazy things like walking onto a minefield. This very much seems like Khonshu really pulling the string so he can have his avatar.
Yep, and you have that. There's that shot there which we see again and again of Mark staring at the moon throughout the whole series of Lemire's run.
Such a great connector.
Yeah, and Smallwood, without going into whole panel by panel review though, but Smallwood here, his expression that he draws of Mark looking at the moon is so different from all the other ones, but in such a subtle way. I mean, he's kind of looking at it almost mesmerized and kind of adoring. Yeah, and which later on you see him. He looks at the moon differently all throughout the series, but I think that was a really good point there. But yes, really good bit of art there.
Yeah, I think we see throughout this entire life of his just sort of how crazy and violent. Well, I mean, sort of this run, but I guess his life. Yes, run. But it almost seems like whenever Smallwood draws him looking at the moon, it's always sort of that one moment of complete peace and serenity. Almost has.
Yeah. Yes.
Like almost worries being washed away.
Yeah, it's kind of like a drug, almost. You know, he finds solace in it. You know, he's got the moon talking to him, and you know, before he knows it, as you can see here in the in Iraq, he's naked over in a minefield, just somehow wandered in there. So, as your fellow soldiers, you can't help but think, okay, I don't want to have this guy watching my back, because he's not reliable. I mean, yeah, he's a bit of a loose cannon. And I mean, and we get the snippet of Mark being basically told by his commanding officer that, sorry, dude, you're a bit nuts, and we're gonna have to release you. But even then, before he even gets to tell him that, Mark has an apparition of Khonshu speaking, you know, through the commanding officer. So Khonshu is very much present through Mark's life over here, and it's a good way to, I don't know, it's very different. I like how Lemire flicks between these bits of Mark's past and the battle in the Overvoid. It's just very contrasting, I think.
Yeah, it's like, I love how it connects to the cover of the shot of between Mark running and Khonshu. Sort of encapsulates this issue.
Yeah, that sums it up, doesn't it?
Mr. Knight, sorry.
Yeah, it's perfect, actually. I didn't think of that, but that's right on the money. It's exactly like that. It's like, what is it? Sliding Doors, that TV, that movie, like parallels, kind of like, you know, things are happening. So the other insight into Mark's past that we see is him doing a bit of an underground fight club thing for money and or for kicks. It seems. So again, I think this kind of confirms or just consolidates the idea that Mark is a good fighter. You know, he's not just. He is one of our
Khonshu powered.
Yeah, he's one of our superheroes. So he's a good fighter, and he beats this guy. But you can see he kind of almost half enjoying it, right? He wants the guy to say, you know, to basically yield, but he won't stop until the guy is pretty much a bloody mess. So we get
but I think almost here as well, you sort of see, you know, the termination of Moon Knight, but you still sort of see that even at his lowest, you know, after being kicked out of, you know, the military and his past sort of brought back to bite him, that he still won't take a life. You know, he's being shouted to kill, but he wants someone to yield instead of having to beat them to death. Yeah,
that is a good point. So he's not your total, again, as we go back to comparisons with the Punisher. He's not, you know, hasn't crossed that line. I mean, he is a pretty brutal. We're just talking about this, spiked knuckles and all that.
Knuckles.
He's very brutal, but he treads a really fine line, doesn't he? Because I reckon the likes of Daredevil and Spider-Man think, geez, this guy is just too much, you know. Whereas the Punisher would probably go, yeah, but he hasn't. He just doesn't do enough, you know. So he's just right in that narrow corridor of basically beating someone to the point of near death. And this actually leads to my second aspect, which I thought was a big reveal, and it's a big reveal at the end. He gets approached at the end of the fight by a gentleman, as John mentioned in Bare Bones. It's Jean-Paul, it's Frenchie, and we all know him as the partner in crime, so to speak, you know, the sidekick of Mark Spector. Actually, I wouldn't call him a sidekick, Connor, would I? He pretty much, he stands on his own. He does help Mark out, but he's just as formidable as Mark, I think.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, what a just a lovely reveal. I mean, sort of, you know, this sort of a comforting reveal almost. You know, a dark figure peering from the shadows is never a nice thing, but here it's the man who would become Mark's longtime friend. You know, it's nice to see the, you know, so sort of calming to hear the mon ami,
Yeah.
and then it's just Frenchie giving a sly look.
Yeah.
But on your other point, yeah, I really like that. I feel like sometimes Frenchie does get the rough end of the deal, where he's very much just seen as Mark's driver. But it's obvious, like here, it sort of reinforces that no, Frenchie was a mercenary.
Yeah.
He's in this fighting area just as much as everyone else, and he's the one who offers Mark. He's not the sidekick. He's a partner.
Yeah.
Just formidable.
And he is actually the one that introduces Mark into the mercenary world. So, these snippets again of Mark's past show that he was just discharged recently from the military, and not really knowing where to go, what to do. He knows he's prone to violence. Actually, that was one of the big points. His father was against him, because his father was very much a pacifist. Mark went the other way, as a typical some sons and fathers do. But yeah, he was kind of directionless, and we see it's Frenchie is the one who's responsible to kind of put him on course as a mercenary.
Yeah, and I also love that the name Frenchie isn't like some sort of almost constantly sort of jab at John Paul Frenchie by Mark all the time by just calling him Frenchie. He got the nickname in a sort of a terrible place where everyone talks with his fist. It's not it's not just kind of Mark being mean.
Yeah, true, and I'm glad that they did that as well, because it would be pretty bad form for Mark to kind of give almost a little nudge to the ribs kind of nickname as Frenchie to him. And it's good to see, actually, he doesn't have such an overbearing French accent. I mean, the earlier series is, Zis, instead of this, it's ZIS, and, it was very kind of hammed up. So I'm glad that, in this modern era, it's kind of pared down a bit. But it's good to see that it's still called Frenchie. So, yeah. Your any other aspects there, Connor?
My final aspect.
Yep. Sorry.
You brought this up before, just sort of asking about all the different worlds. This one has sort of been, it's very much been the asylum and this crazy other void place. And so my final aspect, what was I going to say? But the other parts were, the other parts of this world were Torres, Stoko, and Francavilla. So this issue going between his past was such sort of a new dimension, a new, Small and Belay get taken to all new areas of artistry and storytelling. The colors are different, the way Mark's framed is different as we go from an actual decently supportive and happy mental hospital for Mark to this dark nighttime in an urban setting to the burnt sunset of Mark leaving the forces.
That was very
the true sandy night.
That was very noticeable. That page in particular, when you just said the burnt red, I knew exactly which one you're talking about.
Yeah. And it was just so cool to see him do this because obviously it's not a problem for the rest of this run to be in sort of the one scene or be lovely and contained, but it's so nice seeing this whole new range and even just sort of Small and Belay getting to just have fun and do this all new sort of look at Mark in his lifetime.
Yeah, I feel Smallwood really does hit it out of the park with a lot of the portraiture, the facial art. Like there are a few panels here with just headshots. And I'm looking at one, if we look at, say, page 12, and you have, again, the repetitive theme of the eyes as he's kind of, zoned out as his commanding officer is speaking to him. But the picture at the bottom with kind of like a perspective shot of Mark's face, as he just says "you do" to the commanding officer. It's just brilliant from Smallwood. He's really such a talent. I can't think of another artist that can actually create such a realistic yet still still comic faithful work of art. Just really good.
Yeah, definitely. I think you're right. we're having the big fight scene in the other void, and it's over void here. I'm sorry. But when it's just a real life, there's no combat for him. There's no action. Well, I mean, it's fights in the end. Yep. But as in the forces and all that, there's no actual combat. It's just his interactions and Mark's sort of fragile lifestyle and mental state over the years.
Yeah,
it's fantastic. And actually, even in the Overvoid, it's crazy amazing just even how different that is, and the fact that every panel of this crazy dragonfly fighting arena has these amazing colors by Belair in the background. That entirely cosmic look at the world, and the way those hues sort of affect even the foreground and how it clashes with the white of Moon Knight. It's brilliant by Belair.
It's pure. It even goes to the point of just pure abstract color design. I mean, from what you say, is that page where they're on the dragonflies and they're predominantly pink, and then Belair just puts in a bit of a yellow background. I mean, there's no...
Yeah, right? Yeah, it's so...
There's no rhyme or reason to it. I can't think of any particular reason to it, but she's using that kind of complementary colour scheme of purple and yellow, and it just pops, you end up just really concentrating on the dragonflies. It's really cool. So, yeah, definitely. And hang on, look at that. If you look at the 2 pages just before and after, the panel design as well is just arrow up, and then we've got arrow down. And I think that's him going up onto the dragonfly and then plummeting to the ground. So a lot of thought again. This design is just really cool. But yeah, definitely kind of Smallwood and Belair really, they're really sinking their teeth into this, aren't they?
Just an absolute, a magnum opus. And I mean, Belair's doing everything, and we could talk about every book and how great she is. Yeah. And I mean, just pick up a book and she'll be on it, and you can go crazy over that. But I can't wait. Yeah. Just because this is sort of his book. He's had some great little one-offs this year, and then we get Shadow Man next year. I cannot wait for him on that title.
And I think he picks, Smallwood said he does pick his projects carefully, which is good, which is why you don't see him kind of overused or anything like that. And I think Shadow Man is perfect for him. It's kind of got that, it's kind of that madness as well. It's very similar to Moon Knight. And he just recently did that amazing Spider-Man with Norman Osborn, who's a bit mad as well. So he does really crazy characters very well. Not to say that that's his wheelhouse. He's very accomplished, in any setting. But it's Shadow Man's is pretty cool. I mean, I'm a bit of a fan of Shadow Man too. Just before we wrap this one up, I've just got to make mention as one of the extra little aspects. So Mark in the Overvoid, we're actually left at issue 11 with him going to be sacrificed to the altar. So that's kind of left him in a bit of a predicament. And I guess we'll see what happens in the next issue. But overall, Connor, Crescent Dart ratings, what would you give this one?
Well, look, 5 out of 5. I mean, we're not at the climax of this arc, but there's just so much being given to us in such a middle point. There was no conflict resolution. There wasn't even much conflict, but just how much we progress the main story and how much more we're seeing of Mark. One of our favorite heroes on this podcast. It's why we're doing this podcast. It's just amazing.
Yeah, look, one day, Connor, we're going to have to pick a classic run or a classic issue that's actually really bad, because we're given very good ratings, which is nothing wrong with that. But I would have to give it a 5 as well. 5 out of 5 Crescent Dart rating, only because two main reasons, and the first is I just find Smallwood's art quite addictive. It's hard not to like it, and I'd challenge anyone to say they know someone or someone has a bad opinion about Smallwood's art, because it's just, I don't know, it's just really well proportioned. Layouts are very well thought out, and can't really say too much bad things about it. And so that was one of the main things. And to get a full another full issue of Smallwood's was a real treat. And I really did like his art on the facial expressions. I found them very subtle, but also you can actually tell what he was actually aiming for. And I'd imagine that'd be really hard to draw, Yeah, I mean, like, I draw something and someone either looks happy or sad or, but to get those little nuances, it's just a sign of a really great artist. The other major point I think was I loved how Lemire framed the story around Mark's past. So to get a bit more of Mark's past, and sure, we know what Mark's past is, but to get it told by Lemire and with Smallwood on art was really special, I thought. And just to see his military, I don't think we've actually seen much of his military action. More of his merc stuff. So it was good to see, his stint in Iraq at least, what he got up to there, albeit a crazy, minefield waltz. But it was really good. So, yeah, I'd have to give it 5. And, looking forward to issue 12.
Yeah, last 3 issues.
Last 3 issues.
Of this adventure.
Yeah, definitely. We're hurtling towards the new series, so we're almost getting there. But before we do, we've got another Over the Moon, our second review.
Oh yeah.
And we welcome back John to narrate the bare bones. So I'll pass it to John to give us the details.
The Defenders, Volume 1, Issue 47, Night Moves. Valkyrie and Hellcat leave Hulk and Nighthawk at the Defenders' headquarters as Hellcat hitches a ride with Valkyrie to the Avengers mansion for unfinished business. Hulk, slightly confused at his team member's departure, chooses to be alone and so leaves Nighthawk to his own devices. With the recent events at Defenders HQ, Nighthawk welcomes the opportunity to wind down on his own, and so runs himself a warm bath and settles down with the newspaper, and of course his favourite tipple. Meanwhile, across town in New Jersey, Nick Fury and his S.H.I.E.L.D. operatives appear to carry out an abduction of an unknown man. Little do they know that they are being watched from high above by none other than Moon Knight. The Avatar of Vengeance springs into action, disabling Fury's men. However, he is met with a greater challenge when facing Nick Fury himself. The two heroes trade blows, but it's Moon Knight who gains the upper hand. As Fury's men regain their feet, they are met with Jack Norris, the would-be abductee, who joins Moon Knight in battling his captors. Nick Fury, as always, has a plan, and when all looks lost, Fury deploys a smoke bomb, allowing himself and S.H.I.E.L.D. to escape. Whilst this occurs, in Greenwich Village at one secret sanctorum, Valkyrie visits Clay in Doctor Strange's absence. Clay assists Valkyrie with a new wardrobe, granting her a new and improved costume. Whilst Valkyrie gains new threads, Hellcat is elsewhere at Avengers Mansion, hoping to catch her fellow Avengers there. Instead, she stumbles upon Simon Williams, aka Wonder Man, and not knowing that he has recently joined the Avengers, she mistakes him for an intruder, and not Wonder Woman, and sets about to detain him. The fight is short, but before Hellcat is knocked unconscious by falling debris, she realizes Wonder Man is not the enemy. It is DC's Wonder Woman. As we turn our attention back to Moon Knight and Jack Norris, it's not long before they reach the secret sanctorum. Jack knows Doctor Strange and the Defenders, and he pleads with Valkyrie, still there with Clay, for help. Jack has been wanted by S.H.I.E.L.D. for sensitive information regarding a presidential candidate. However, Jack was reluctant to cooperate, as it places his friend, Doctor Strange, at risk. Moon Knight concurs with Jack about S.H.I.E.L.D.'s failed abduction attempt, and so Valkyrie, Moon Knight and Jack head to Avengers headquarters to seek help and shed light on S.H.I.E.L.D.'s actions. Moon Knight and co. arrive at Avengers headquarters just in time to see Wonder Man break free of the fallen debris and Hellcat lying unconscious at his feet. Valkyrie and Moon Knight burst in and attack the hapless Wonder Man, who responds in kind. Just as Wonder Man starts to get the better of his attackers, Hellcat regains consciousness and screams for them all to stop, imploring that Wonder Man had in fact saved her life from the debris that came down on them both. She quickly proves to Wonder Man that she, Hellcat, is indeed an Avenger. But before they can put all their differences completely aside, a message comes in over the monitors. It's Nick Fury, and he wants Jack Norris. I hope you have a great time listening to the rest of Into the Night podcast. Certainly my other half on Defenders, Derek O'Neill, would be slightly miffed that he missed this Nick Fury extravaganza. And of course, Nick Fury proving himself to be both good and slightly grey and shady at the same time. But of course, it is a shame that Doctor Strange could not come in, save the day, whirring his hands around, putting out his mystical, magical power. Have a great time reviewing these comics and enjoy the podcast, everyone. And of course, who would have thought we would have gotten the DC crossover from Wonder Man, the distant cousin of Wonder Woman. But with that, of course, enjoy the rest of Into the Night. Thank you so much for having me do the narration and loving the Moon Knight podcasts. Keep it up, guys. Bye.
Cool. Thank you so much, John. That was a really cool, exciting, fun-filled synopsis of Bare Bones. And thank you, actually, so much, John, for taking the time to do it. It was, just something that, we thought would be fun, and we hope you enjoyed doing it as well. But, just, can I say I'm over the moon at how the narration went. So thank you, John. Thank you, and thank you for those unexpected little quips. So yeah, let's get into it, Connor. The Defenders. This was, unabashedly a little nod towards our guest narrator. I thought, didn't know whether it would be John or Derek to be giving us this narration, so I tried to look for a comic that actually had S.H.I.E.L.D. and or Doctor Strange in it, and or Moon Knight, and it was The Defenders. So I think I did pretty well here. What were your initial thoughts for this issue?
It was such a blast from the past,
It was.
We're well into the 70s.
Yeah.
70s writing, 70s characterization, 70s female representation. It wasn't that bad. You can tell.
Yeah.
But it's also such a interesting cast of characters. Like, I think this Defenders book is notorious for sort of just every character, and I'd almost love to see a current book like this where every issue just has some new crazy team. Well, not like the new people entering or leaving.
Yeah.
And we had art by Keith Giffen and Klaus Janson. And it's also sort of very early into their careers, actually, I noticed. Like, you'd recognize Giffen from Justice League International and Janson from the very, very beloved Frank Miller Daredevil run. And here it's sort of...
Yes.
Sort of don't recognize them, do you?
No, not at all. Actually, I know I came across Klaus Janson more in the Wolverine run. He actually had a run with John Byrne in the 90s. He did the inking, so John Byrne did the pencils, and you can tell very much a Janson inking artwork. But yeah, over here it's almost you can't notice it. It's I guess very early on in their career. So this was a fun one. We do have a bit of Moon Knight in here, but
he does get a nice little show off, doesn't he?
He does.
Like, you don't expect it with these earlier books, but no, he's here. He's doing well.
And I mean, considering he's not a defender as well. Like he's still pretty much a lone wolf. But I think so. This was in 1977. I think. With the interest, Moon Knight generated from 75 onwards, they had to kind of try and put him in here, I guess, to try and get people interested in him. And he does, as you say, he does pretty well. So my first aspect was, I thought this was great. It was his him versus Nick Fury of S.H.I.E.L.D. I thought that was a doozy. So, everyone, Nick Fury is a pretty formidable character in his own right, the head of director of S.H.I.E.L.D., and you've got this this crazy guy, Moon Knight, who takes him on, and he actually, I'd say he got the better of him.
Yeah, he beats up poor Nick Fury. He was trying to doctor unconscious man. Yeah, no, he does really well here, and he actually quips pretty well. And I liked this is sort of an aspect, I guess, I'll call on throughout this whole review, that Moon Knight was written pretty well. Like, even in this, Nick Fury's the head of S.H.I.E.L.D., and Moon Knight's talking about being the lone wolf, and he's not one who works under the government. He can fight how he wants, however dirty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so he's not constrained by any organisation or such. So he gets a few in there. He first throws his truncheon at Nick Fury to disarm him. Then he jumps on him. Nick Fury counters. They just basically trade blows, but he kind of beats him in the end with just a nice left hook. And then Jack Norris kind of comes round and he helps out. And I found out, Connor, actually through another podcast. It was actually Signal of Doom, hosted by David and Stu, and they did a Drew's Views. So David had a guest on there, Drew, and he actually spoke a lot about the Defenders, and he goes on to say that Jack Norris, which is this guy that we come across in this issue, has a very strong connection to Valkyrie. In this run, actually Valkyrie inhabits the body of Jack's wife. So I guess if you follow the Defenders comic, you'd know a bit more about this. But we've just jumped right in because of Moon Knight. But yeah, so actually Jack has a connection with Valkyrie. Valkyrie herself has no knowledge of the body or the memories of the woman that she inhabits. So there's a bit of conflict and frustration there. But yeah, that's where this Jack Norris guy came in, because when I was reading this, I thought, who the hell is this guy? Is he that important? I mean, why is he, But so that's his connection. But anyway, yeah, a good slab of Moon Knight there. We get like 1, 2, we get 3 pages of him. So
I mean, I also like that.
Sorry.
I also like that he's sort of there.
Sorry, go on. Sorry.
No.
Sorry.
I was just going to say quickly that I like that he's the hero here actually in this situation. Who's not sort of the lone wolfman.
Yes.
Destroying everything, is actually sort of the hero of the day, beating up a bad decision-making Nick Fury here and helping.
Yeah.
Someone who's obviously been built up in this run. Jack Norris is a bit of a main character, a hero in his own right.
And he's actually willing to help. Like, he's not such a lone wolf. Like, even towards the end, he accompanies Jack, and he accompanies Valkyrie as well. Eventually, to go into the Avengers Mansion, where we see Hellcat and Wonder Man had a bit of a tussle. And I've got to say that Wonder Man, not one of his best costumes to date. I'm glad they kind of fixed that. And as John mentioned, could have some sort of connection to Wonder Woman. But he's a strong fella. And look, I'll dive right into my second aspect, and we actually have another bout of Moon Knight taking on Wonder Man. So Wonder Man is actually a very powerful character. Are you familiar with much of his stuff, Connor?
Not at all.
Oh, really?
Nothing.
Okay, I used to love West Coast Avengers, again, in the golden era of the 90s. I used to follow that comic book, and Wonder Man featured predominantly in there. So Wonder Man is basically a being of pure ionic energy, and he's actually as strong, or some would argue stronger than Thor or the Hulk. So he's very strong. So anyway, we have Moon Knight going back here, your normal fella, just in a white costume. He's taking on, again, is an example of taking on a being far more powerful than himself. And yeah, I thought this was great. He evades him enough times, like he's quite elusive, quite acrobatic. But then when he does try and punch him, you can see that he kind of hurts his hand there, and that's his downfall.
Yeah, he definitely bit off more than he can chew.
Yeah, but that's one of the admirable traits, I think, of Moon Knight.
Yeah.
He will not, whether it's a werewolf, whether it's Morpheus, he's going to give it a go. So,
and he doesn't even really give up here. It's not until Hellcat stops the fighting. He's still...
Yeah,
he's still giving it his all.
I mean, this guy can just squash him like an ant. But you got to admire the tenacity of Moon Knight. So I thought that was very, very cool of Moon Knight. How about yourself, Connor? What's your other aspect there?
I'll just get into this fight as well. Actually, the classic costume before we got
yes.
The Munstron, he still has it attached to his hands, the cape. And I actually kind of like that. I like the shots of him flying down. Yeah. He's got a very sort of ghostly mask as well. I mean, that's the point of Moon Knight. But he's you don't have that classic hood covering most of the face in darkness. It's very sort of almost skeletal in parts.
That's true. I mean, like, he had the white mask in 75 in Werewolf by Night, and this is 1970, so a couple of years after. What is it? It is 1980. Yeah, I guess the first volume 1 of Moon Knight. He has the black all of a sudden. So he originally did. I guess that's a good point. Be mindful of that. We're looking at Bemis and Burroughs' run coming up, and it's Moon Knight's white mask. It's actually his original. I always in my head envisaged his black hood as the seminal Moon Knight image. But if you're true to history, it's the white mask all the way.
Yeah, onto my final point, which is just sort of a final aspect, which is sort of just someone who's never read this era of Defenders, that this is probably the most dysfunctional team in the world. And I do love that writer, is it John Wagner?
Oh, I'm not too sure. Hang on. Yep, John Warner. Yep.
John Warner, sorry. Yeah. John Warner. Has fun with that as well. I'm trying to pull up the specific quote, but I love at the start, is that a Nighthawk character? Or
Nighthawk.
Yeah.
That's your early Nighthawk there, Connor. Not your Dwayne street level Nighthawk.
Look, I maybe prefer the costume over this one. This one isn't terrible.
It is really terrible, isn't it? Look, and just going on with Nighthawk, he doesn't do much in this issue. We only see him again, and look, let me just quote here from the comic. I think this is what you were alluding to, Connor, about treatment of women. It says here, meanwhile, Kyle still soaks in his bath, blissfully unaware of the threads of fate intricately woven through the night. And he's here talking to himself, going, "You know what you need, Kyle, my boy? A night on the town with a lady. Someone who will wear elegantly little and smile suggestively over her Chivas Regal." So he knows what he wants. It doesn't sound like he wants, too much engaging conversation or anything like that. But he's definitely, playing it up as a playboy.
Yeah, and I do love the point, he talks about, even a master of mystic arts couldn't keep together, talking about the team, and there's a lot of mentions down there where no one knows that Wonder Man's actually in the Avengers. No one knows that Hellcat should be there as well. Moon Knight's in the mix. They're at Doctor Strange's mansion, and it could be crazy, but I think Warner actually has a lot of fun writing this. That it even stands up. Old books. Who knows how the humor works, but that sort of crazy dynamics always sort of it's got a bit of chuckle. It's a bit fun.
It is a bit of fun, and it's pretty hard to read it at first and go, but if only they'd a bit of cross wires, a bit of miscommunication, and if it was like, if only they they got their story straight at the beginning, none of this would have happened. Like, a lot of them just was it Hellcat? She just attacks him straight away. Like,
I know.
It's like, I thought you were an Avenger. Well, can you at least try and figure out what this guy is doing here, So it's, it is funny, but I do like the way that you put it, Connor. I think Warner's just having fun with it, and it ends up being quite a fun read because of the situation that is presented with itself. Again, just going on to your dysfunctional ness of the team. We get Hulk as well, one of the big hitters, one of the big names. Going, going. Oh, I couldn't be asked. Hanging around you, Nighthawk. You talk too much. So yeah, I'm gonna be alone. So, and that's all we get of Hulk. So you'd have to think that you're slightly gypped if you picked up this comic thinking, oh, okay, the Defenders. Oh yeah, Hulk. Hulk's my favourite. He's going to be in it. No, he pisses off pretty early on in the piece. So yeah, it's pretty much a hodgepodge of a team, I must say.
Yeah. So, any sort of final notes on the old Defenders issue 47?
Well, just that this obviously is not the Defenders that we see on Netflix at the moment. It's purely Defenders by name. I do like also the little jump in, little cameo appearance by the Sanctum Sanctorum. Although Doctor Strange isn't there, he's one of the original Defenders, so it's good that he gets a mention. But it's good to see Clea and Wong at least. So that was a nice little cameo, I thought. How about yourself, Con? Any last thoughts on the issue?
Not really. I feel like I had something, and now I've bloody lost it. So I guess that's all for me.
Yeah. Well. Yep. No sign of Khonshu as well. So Moon Knight's pretty much a straight-laced, vigilante type. But yeah, Crescent Dart ratings, Connor. This is going to be a tough one.
Crescent Dart.
Yeah. What would you?
Yeah. I mean, it suffers from being like an older issue, and being objective here, your mileage as one of a listener, your mileage will vary when coming into this. But one is like a Moon Knight issue. It was fun, He got to bloody throw Nick Fury over, and I do. And I mean, it seems like a fun era, and like it did have fun with itself, as I'm saying. But it's kind of, it is just kind of a book that like I could read the rest of this. But if I don't, I don't really mind. Like if I never sort of revisit this era, I won't feel worse for wear outside of kind of a fun history lesson. But I think still, as an issue, and still very much actually enjoying it, I'd probably still give it 3 out of 5 Crescent Darts.
3 out of 5. Yeah. Look, I agree with much of what you say, Connor, as well. It's look, I think you'd be viciously disappointed if you're a big fan of the Netflix Defenders series and somehow you stumble across this and go, okay, it's very different in vibe. It's gone beyond, it's already issue 47, so it's gone beyond the original Defenders lineup, which was, I assume, the Hulk and Doctor Strange and all that. So you're starting to get these second tier characters like Hellcat and Nighthawk in there. It was fun to see Moon Knight in there as well, and he did have. I was glad that he had at least two stoushes, one with Nick Fury and one with Wonder Man. So it was a bit of fun there for any Moon Knight fans to read it. But yeah, it was I can easily let this one lie. I'm not hankering for issue 48. Let's just say that. And yeah, for that, and to be different from me, Connor, I'll have to go for 2.75. Crescent Dart. So we got one one slightly low Crescent Dart rating in there at least. To kind of contrast to Lemire's fantastic run at the moment. So yeah, that will wrap up that Loonies. And that was actually, I think that's hard. That's on Marvel Unlimited as well. So you should be able to pick that up on Marvel Unlimited Loonies if you want to. Just give it a go. And Lemire's is obviously available in trade, in singles. It's on it's on Comixology, and it's on Marvel Unlimited as well. So, plenty of places. Alright, Connor, next phase. What do we have?
Next phase, we have, of course, issue 12 of Lemire's Moon Knight, Death and Birth, part 3 of 5, which we will continue gushing.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of the West Coast Avengers, a series Ray's now devoted himself to in love and health in the 90s. a series I've only read because I liked Moon Knight in it for the few issues. Bloody fan, as they would say. But West Coast Avengers, Volume 2, Issue 29, Dead Run. One of the very noticeable issues where Moon Knight takes on the baddie this issue, and it's all about him. He's on the cover.
Yes.
He's out of planes. It's good. I think it's on Marvel Unlimited.
Yes, I actually just read up on that kind of yesterday, just trying to prep myself, first read through it, and it is a really cool and a really fun issue, so looking forward to that. We'll have another surprise narrator to give us the bare bones for both of these issues next week, look forward to both of them. For our spectacle, Connor, I've just got a couple of notes here. The first one, I wanted to give a shout out to Paul and Lewis from our Facebook group, because I said, this can't go unnoticed. Paul was, I think, the first one. He scored a limited edition Dynamic Forces negative variant cover of an that's a mouthful, of an Alex Ross cover of Vengeance of the Moon Knight #1, and it's basically what it says. It's the negative of the Alex Ross cover, and it came with a certificate of authenticity, and I believe Lewis has got one now as well. So well done, guys. That's that's gonna have to go on my hunting list at some point, but well done for picking up that, because it sounds like it's quite hard to find.
Yeah, and I mean, these two are amazing collectors. I'm not much in the collector's game myself. I'm kind of a broke student. But these guys are just absolute legends with finding crazy bargains. I think they were talking about this getting it at like $80 or something ridiculous through their searching, and they're always posting in the group, facebook.com/group/into the night. You can see a post about it there. Everything all these crazy loonies are finding and collecting. Oh,
it's so good to have such passionate fans on the in the group. So so just wanted to shout out to Paul and Lewis. Well done, guys. Also, I wanted to give a nice shout out to Daniel and Joe from Geek Street Podcast. I just listened to their latest episode, and they recently covered recent releases of trailers like Justice League and The Last Jedi, and also they covered a lot of TV shows like The Flash and Supergirl as well. They talked a bit about Inhumans, and then they also covered DC's Dark Metal and Marvel's Legacy. I just wanted to give them a shout out. These guys are really cool. Get onto their podcast. It's a lot of fun. If you want to know anything about Gilmore Girls, just give Daniel and Joe a bell as well. But really fun podcast. Thanks, guys, for the shout out as well. Also, a big best of luck to Daniel, who's expecting his third child. So very similar to Max Bemis. So well done, Daniel. I hope all goes well. And he snuck in one episode there. I think the baby's due. It was due very soon. So all the best, Daniel, for that.
Signal of Doom also gave us a interesting shout out recently.
Oh yes,
but no, they've always been supportive, and we did get a nice little drop on their latest podcast. So just giving the love back. Signal of Doom with Dave and Stu. Yep. You'll find them with a quick Google search of Signal of Doom.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. Well, I think that's about it for us, Connor. That was a really good recap of the three, and it was really great to have our first special guest narrator in John. A big thank you again. Just quickly, I think I've mentioned it before, but Defenders TV podcast is their podcast. They're lying in wait for the Punisher, but they've got hundreds of episodes of all your Defenders goodness, so check them out, please do. As usual, you can find us you can find us on email, moonknightpodcast@gmail.com, on our website, intothenightpodcast.wordpress.com. Check us out on Facebook. We've got a page and a group. Please, if you can follow the page, that will be cool. Try to rack up the numbers there. We're on Twitter as well. Just look for ITK Moon Knight. Also on Instagram, Tumblr, and YouTube as well. Just search for Into the Night with a K, a Moon Knight podcast, and we should pop up there in some form or another. We're also on many a podcast catcher. So just search for us. I had a look kind of just recently at iHeartRadio. We're not on that, so I'm going to get onto that as soon as I can.
Yeah.
So anyone with iHeartRadio app, don't worry, we'll be on there soon. But anywhere else, you should be able to catch us. Any last words, Connor?
Yeah, I mean, it's just been a great episode. This one's a bit late, so I've been waiting to get back on and talking to Ray. Highlight of every week. I hope you enjoyed listening to us. Hope you're enjoying all the news coming out and how excited we all are. The new issue.
Yep.
I hope we see you next week.
Yeah, definitely. And like we always say, may Khonshu watch over the denizens of the night. Catch you later.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Moon Knight and affiliated characters, stories and events are properties of Marvel Characters Incorporated. Materials used and discussed within the podcast are intended for critique and review purposes only under the fair dealing concept of the current Copyright Act. The views, information or opinions expressed during the podcast are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent those of the copyright owners.